For 3 days, some of the most desirable, beautiful and rare cars in the world have come together in Australia's first international Concours d'Elegance and Classic Motor Show. For many, these aren't just cars, but rolling sculptures that represent a time and place in history, as well as the individual and unique stories of the hands which they have passed through over time.
I have never seen so many interesting cars gathered together in this sort of atmosphere. I mean, it's the most magnificent hall, absolutely stunning.
This car has predated the Auto Union cars by 2 to 3 years, but it was a secret project. So for me, this was a peak of aerodynamics.
I've wanted to see an event like this for a long time because I love cars. I love old cars. I love classic cars and early cars.
You own a beautiful car, it's like a horse or a cow or a goat or a flower or a cake. But a car is something quite different, of course, and you've been wise enough to buy it, to nurture it, to restore it in many cases, to maintain ownership of it and to show it. And so it is something very unique.
I've got the special polish, which you don't even use a rag, and you just use this polished carnauba wax that melts in your hand, and then you lovingly stroke it all over the body. It's the closest thing you can do, you're doing to making love to your car almost, I think.
You know, there's nothing here that isn't interesting, and there's nothing here that isn't significant.
I had a phone call from the owner of this operation on a Sunday morning, and he said, "George, we had a break-in last night." I said, "Oh, that's no good. What happened?" He said, "Well, they've taken your radiator and a spare wheel." On my mobile, "George, we've got your gear. We want $8,000. I want to meet you at the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Maroondah Highway, Ringwood, tonight at 10 o'clock.
Never before has there been a display of classic cars of this magnitude and quality in one place in Australia.
Daimler was the royal mark, and it was all heads of state and royalty that ordered these and owned them and maintained them. This particular model, there was 12 built. This one existing mainly because it went to Australia in 1929. And by going to Australia, the other 11 that were in London and England obviously were used up during the war effort because of their mass and their weight of aluminum and steel.
I've had this car for 26 years. It looks far fresher than the day I bought it. It's a 1956 Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. Sterling Moss sat in it yesterday and he sat in it again today. And people tell me, and this is just confidential between you and me and not all these others around, that he's said to a number of people, if there was a car of the show that he'd like to take, it's the Gullwing.
The judging is based on similar criteria set across all categories of class. This is an intense time for the car owners.
There could well be cars here that may not lose a point, that may go through being what we call a 100-point car.
You know, I know there's things on this car that's not right. I just hope that the judge doesn't see them.
All the people here think that their car is very, very good, and all the owners think that their car is in there with a chance of winning.
I'm quietly confident. I've got my fingers crossed, that's for sure.
After 3 days, it all comes to a head on Sunday afternoon when the winners of the inaugural awards are announced.
And now the moment that we have been waiting for. The next award being the Motorclassica Best in Show.
There can only be one winner, and of course a lot of disappointed people. Some take it on the chin, some are happy, some are not so happy.
The 2010 Motorclassica Australian International Concours d'Elegance Best in Show Award goes to The 1928 Daimler P150 limousine, Mr. and Mrs. Bob Lukowski, Wisconsin, USA.